and just coming from the parliament, we had a very interesting discussion with some members of the British Parliament on Georgia's foreign policy. And the main issue the colleagues wanted to discuss with me was NATO and the way, Georgia's way to NATO. But let me start with the announcement that the new government, which came to power after the parliamentary elections in 2012, did not change the foreign policy priorities of the country, and it's still the European and Euro-Atlantic integration. And now it's a very important time for Georgia, because in 2 weeks' time we will sign the association agreement with the European Union, including the deep and comprehensive free trade area, which is the practical part of this agreement, which brings the political association with the European Union and the economic integration into the European Union. At the same time, we are working on visa liberalization action plan, which brings visa-free regime for Georgian citizens, I hope, end of 2015, 2016. These two foreign policy priorities are, as I said, unchanged, and we are following this path, and we are quite successful. Another foreign policy priority is the Euro-Atlantic integration, and this is the most discussed issue now, not only in Georgia, but also in the NATO member states. The next summit of NATO will take place in this country, in Wales, and we are very much hopeful that this summit will bring some progress in Georgia-NATO relationship. And we hope very much that this next step of Georgia's integration into NATO will be the membership action plan, or at least the adequate reflection of Georgia's progress made in the last years. And that the progress was made in Georgia, nobody discussed this issue. And the testimony for that are the two elections we had in 2012 and 2013, the parliamentary elections in October 2012, and the presidential elections a year later. These elections have been prized by the international organizations and observers and fair and free, and the most fair and free elections, not only in Georgia, but also in the entire region, and we are very proud of that. Today we have the 11th, right? And on 15th, in 4 days, we have another elections in Georgia. These are local elections, and they are quite different from all previous local elections, because the mayors of 12 major cities in Georgia will be elected directly. And this is something new for Georgia, and we are confident that we will perform in these elections on the same level as on the presidential elections in October 2013. When I say that European and Euro-Atlantic integration are the foreign policy priorities of Georgia, I should add that it became already part of the domestic policy, because many reforms are needed for European integration, and Georgia is fulfilling all criteria for the association agreement, but also for the next steps of European integration. Some of the reforms are quite painful, but the government has the courage to pass these reforms and to adopt new laws. One example of such courage, I would say, was the adoption of anti-discrimination law, which was passed just months ago. It was part of visa liberalization action plan, but I believe that it was necessary for our country, because I believe that the rights of all minorities should be protected, and we have now this law, and we are also very proud that this law passed the parliament. The European and Euro-Atlantic integration is something very natural for Georgia. It's something which is not discussed in the Georgian society, because more than 85% of Georgian population supports these foreign policy priorities, and there is a consensus among all major political parties. At the same time, the new Georgian government tries to improve the relationship with Russia. I'm sure you know that we did not have diplomatic relationship with Russia. We still don't have diplomatic relationship with Russia, which were stopped 2008 after the war and occupation of 1/5 of Georgian territory. But nevertheless, the new Georgian government decided to improve the relations, and the former Prime Minister Ivanishvili appointed a special representative on Russian issues who started a bilateral dialogue with the Russian representative, Deputy Foreign Minister Karasin. They already had 5 meetings. The next meeting will take place in the next weeks after we sign the association agreement. And this dialogue was quite successful because this dialogue managed to reopen the Russian market for Georgian products, especially for wine and mineral water and some agricultural products. And it improved the cultural and humanitarian relationship between two countries, but unfortunately it did not impact the political situation, and 20% of our territories still remain occupied by Russia, and 2 parts of Georgia, South Ossetia and Abkhazia, are still recognized as independent states by Russia, and 3 more countries in the world. These 2 countries are Nauru in the Pacific Rim, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And by the way, we are thankful that the United Kingdom supports the non-recognition policy and supports the IDP resolution in the UN, which was last time introduced just a week ago in New York with an increasing number of supporters. When I said that it did not improve the political relationship with Russia, I mean the installation of barbed wires and fences along the occupation line and some other small or big provocations from Russian side. But everybody is surprised that nothing worse happened in this time. And we are now coming to the date of signature of association agreement in more or less quiet situation, which is a surprise, as I said, for many experts and also for many politicians in Georgia, but that's reality, and we are happy that we are passing now this period in this quiet environment. We hope very much that the statement by Karasin, which he made in Prague after a meeting with his counterpart, that Russia has no plan to somehow stop the signature of association agreement for Georgia, stands, and we will sign it in the same environment like today. The relationship with our neighbors, with Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Armenia, are developing also very positive. We have a very successful cooperation, trilateral cooperation with Azerbaijan and Turkey. We have common pipelines, as you know. Now we are building a railway connecting these 3 countries with each other, and at the same time the Caspian region with the Black Sea region, and Georgia's function as a transit country can be developed thanks to these pipelines and trilateral projects. Turkey is the trade partner number 1 for Georgia, and we need this good relationship with our neighbors, not only because of that, but because we hope to be a leading country in our region, in which all other countries, some of them have conflicts with each other, can meet together in Tbilisi and discuss different issues. We have also a very good relationship with Armenia, less trade and economic relationship because there is less potential for that, but Georgia has a crucial importance for Armenia as a transit country because it's the only connection for Armenia to Russia and to other regions. So in one sentence, Georgia tries to have a balanced policy towards every neighbor and every country in the world, and to develop itself as a democratic country and to play an important role in the region. That's very briefly about the foreign policy priorities of Georgia.